Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Cookie Monster of Pro Forge Racing, bringing you another segment of my Halo 3 history videos. There's my personal forging history, there's my top 10 best double-wide sandbox racetrack forgers, there's the history of race itself, and there's this one, which is the top 20 most downloaded racetracks. Let's just jump right into this. You'll see why this one's number 21 in a minute, not 20, but this one is Meltdown 2 by Slick 00, and it got 79,641 downloads. This is the 21st most downloaded racetrack. There's 20 more downloaded than it. And the most downloaded good racetrack in Halo Reach is Jelly by Can't Stop Donut, which has like 71,000. So that just shows you that racing in Halo 3 was so much more popular, and the racetracks got so many more downloads in this game. You know, they all got in the hundreds of thousands, whereas in Reach, they got the tens of thousands. Which is kind of sad, but hopefully Halo 4 will bring it back. But this is Meltdown 2 by Slick. It's a great, simple little map. It's a double-wide. It's made on Avalanche. And that was the first map to ever make Bungie Favorites as a racetrack. You can go on Bungie.net and look through the 98 weeks of Bungie Favorites, and I started at the end and found the first one. That was the first one in Bungie Favorites. This one is number 20. This one is Quantum by BAM3214. This one got 87,759 downloads. However, that one was not. There's another Quantum, and you'll see in a minute. Anyways, this one's 19 by Cherry Kiss by Rogue Shadow, got 94,606 downloads. Rogue Shadow is one of the best double-wide racetrack forgers in Halo 3. So was Slick. You'll see who made Meltdown 2. You'll see both of them in my top 10 racetrack forgers, double-wides on Sandbox series. They both made incredible maps on Sandbox. This was Rogue Shadow's most popular map. He got his map Silhouette in Bungie Favorites first, and then later he got this map along with Barry Bliss, a similar map but completely different in Bungie Favorites. This is just an incredibly smooth map, so good. There was only like 20 total racetracks that ever made Bungie Favorites, and surprisingly a lot of the top 20 weren't in Bungie Favorites. But anyways, this is number 18, Mighty 180 by The Sniper King. Got 102,999 downloads. And a lot of people left comments on this map on the Bungie.net file saying, you know, not Bungie Favorites worthy, not good. And in a sense, there are, I'd say literally hundreds of racetracks, double-wides on Sandbox, all sorts actually, that are better than this one. It's really not that great a map, and it's really short. However, it is this ginormous 180, and it is pretty cool. And no one had ever done something like this, so I think it's pretty unique, and I guess it deserves it. This was actually in Bungie Favorites the same week a different racetrack was that you will see much later in this series. Number 17 is Quantum by BAM3214, and it got 104,411 downloads. And I know it was also number 20, but Quantum, BAM made two versions of Quantum and Quantum V2. Quantum V2 made Bungie Favorites, and you'll actually see that later in this series. But this is Quantum. He saved two different versions of Quantum, but they were exactly the same, and those were numbers 20 and 17. Between those two maps, which are identical, and Quantum V2, which is a different map and has different features, the three of them are technically, I think, the most downloaded racetrack. However, you know, both Quantum and Quantum number 20 and 17 should technically add their downloads because they're the exact same map. But anyways, this is a great roller coaster. This was the very first good and popular roller coaster to ever come out on Halo 3's Sandbox. It came out shortly after Sandbox came out, and it was actually one of the very first racetracks in general to come out on Sandbox. Although it wasn't the most downloaded racetrack, it was one of the most popular. I would definitely say that. You know, ask anyone, even if they weren't into racing in Halo 3, did you ever have a race map? They'll tell you they had Quantum. Some people hated it because they didn't think it was good, but it really was a great map. Even though it was old and even though it was, you know, overexposed, it was still great. You couldn't go into a custom game lobby without eventually running into this map. I would spend hours playing this with my friends, you know. It was harder if you had someone on the back of your mongoose. I remember one time I had another person on the back of my mongoose. I did 2 laps in a row, and I was so proud. Quantum is really, really a magnificent map. And BAM made tons of other great maps too, all of which were less appreciated because this one's just so popular. This is number 16. Unfortunately, it is incredibly hard to download maps now. It's very hard to find them. You have to be friends with someone in order to get the file share, or else you can't view file shares. There's no way to download off Bungie, so there's 3 maps I couldn't get. But number 16 was Rolling Thunder by X Black Knight, and it got 115,632 downloads. It was a pretty short roller coaster or racetrack. I think racetrack, and it was located on Avalanche. Number 15 was Impulse by Bilbo24, which got 120,603 downloads, which is crazy amounts. Again, I couldn't find this map, unfortunately. I apologize, but I was surprised I was able to find 17 of the top 20. This one was a a racetrack made on Foundry, and it was one of the very old Foundry racetracks. But anyways, number 14 I do have, which is called Frostbite by Last Chaos 7, and it got 121,496 downloads. This one was on Bungie Favorites. You will see another one of his maps that made Bungie Favorites later on in the series that got more downloads. But this was, I believe, one of the first significantly good maps that came out on Avalanche. It's a really good racetrack for an early Avalanche map. I think there were some better ones made by people like Spectacular Raw on this map. However, those weren't in here. Spectacular Raw's most downloaded map that he made with It's Flare, Spectac Flare, actually did get about 57,000 downloads and made Bungie Favorites, and it was on that map, but it wasn't in this list. Number 13 was the last map that I wasn't able to get, called Cliffhanger by JBaron402. Got 142,199 downloads. Jay Barron is the creator of the demo racing game type, or he was back in Halo 3, and it was brought back in Halo Reach, and it actually became pretty popular in Halo Reach, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get Cliffhanger. I was actually able to get his file share from a friend, through a friend's list, but it wasn't in there, unfortunately. But number 12 is Triton's Twist by HT Konakid 904, and it got 142,814 downloads, which is a lot. Triton's Twist is a great map. This is one of the first double-wide maps that I ever found, and when I first found double-wide maps, I thought they were the most amazing thing. I didn't even know how people put objects inside each other, let alone how they did it on angles, and let alone how they made turns, and how they made it, I was just mind-boggled by maps like this. I thought they were just so incredible. I used to play them for hours and look at them, in Forge and an overview, because I didn't know about the Racetracks game type towards the end of Halo 3 anyways, so I was usually in Forge. But anyways, number 11 is Flying Goose by egodude, and it got 155,925 downloads. I actually think it's pronounced egodude. I think I've had that mistake before. But there was actually a lot of maps made on Standoff, but most of them were some of the earliest racetracks ever. Maps like Standoff and other various maps were used first, then maps like Foundry were used, and then when Blackout was not Blackout. Blackout was used a little bit, but when Avalanche was released, that was used, and then when Sandbox was released, it was overused. But this is one of those old maps, not quite as old as some, but still pretty old, and it's just awesome because I used to not appreciate a map if it wasn't a double wide, and I didn't appreciate maps if it wasn't on Sandbox, excuse me. So going back and playing a lot of these maps which weren't double wides and that weren't on Sandbox, I really started to appreciate all sorts of maps. But anyways, number 10 was Niagara Falls by Mr. Frodo, and it got 161,417 downloads. It was edited by Screwball 13 and tweaked by egodude and Killer 200. And Killer 200 was one of the founders of racing in Halo 3, along with See You Later. See You Later created the Racetracks game type, which second to it got the second most download downloads of any game type ever to Rocket Race, which was a Bungie one, so it doesn't really count. But this was one of those very early maps on Foundry, just an incredible piece of forgery. And it's not perfectly smooth like a double-wide racetrack, but this is how racetracks first came to be, with people like Killer and WhiskeyWarm and See You Later and Mr. Frodo and Blade Monkey 751. This is how they used to make their maps. Just simple like this, but really cool, and things that people had never seen before. And it's just incredible. Number 9 was BlackHeart by Last Chaos 7, and it got 194,149 downloads. This map was made by Last Chaos 7, who also made Frostbite, which we saw in Avalanche at number 14. This was one of those maps, along with Triton's Twist, that I thought were so cool, because this and Triton's Twist are both very small maps, very compacted together with small turns that loop in and out of each other, whereas the later sandbox double-wide maps were huge banked waves and stuff that spread out. But these maps were mind-boggling to me, as I mentioned with Triton's Twist. Number 8 was Final Effort by Killer200 and egodude, and it got 198,209 downloads. This was a Bungie Favorites map, as well as BlackHeart was. BlackHeart, the map before, by the way, was the one that was in Bungie Favorites with the Mighty 180, which we saw at number 18. But this map is really, the racetrack itself is not that great. There's two features to it that make it so great. There is a triple, I believe. No, maybe it's just a single backflip. Yeah, I think it's just a single backflip feature. And then later there's the giant jump through the Bungie symbol, the 7th column. And the 7th column is a cool symbol as well. It's the symbol that Bungie uses to represent itself as a company. So there's no question as to why it got in Bungie Favorites. The jump is perfect too, but it's crazy. Number 7 is Quantum V2 by BAM3214, and it got 213,700 downloads. And if you add this with over 100,000 downloads from Quantum and 80,000 downloads from the other Quantum, you know, put those together, that's like 400,000 downloads. I think I actually prefer the first version of Quantum. This one is pretty much the same as the other two Quantums, which the other two are identical, 17 and 20. But this one is just a little bit tweaked. I don't like it as much. He fixed the whoop section, because the whoop section on the first one was a little bit too hard. He added a few he had an extra jump in the middle, and he added a wall at one point that saved you. I actually died right up here at this next jump, because if you go too slow at all, you fail that jump. So that's why I like the first version better. They're pretty much the same overall, though not a whole lot of differences. A lot of, newer maps, you really notice significant differences between V1 and V2s, but back in Halo 3, just one little thing they might tweak. I think he only tweaked a few things, and with a map this big, it's hard to notice small differences, especially because it's a huge, spread out roller coaster. It's an incredible map, so, it's pretty much just the same thing as the other one, but these are the top 20 most downloaded. I'm not gonna, leave this one out, just because it's not, a whole lot different from the first version. But Bam was an incredible forger. He made tons of roller coasters. But clearly the Quantums were the most downloaded, the most popular by far. But that brings us to number 6, which was Zen by WhiskeyWarm, and it got 213,764 downloads. WhiskeyWarm was actually in Bungie Favorites, and he had a map variant, a screenshot, and a video. And all three of those are in the top 3 most downloaded pages for their category. He got a screenshot that got over 1 million downloads, I believe. He got a video clip that got hundreds of thousands of downloads, and this map got hundreds of thousands of downloads. It's one of those old Foundry maps. I actually don't like this one quite as much as some of the other ones, like Niagara Falls and a few of the ones that you'll see coming after it. However, this one is still pretty good. This one's just a little bit longer, and it's a little bit more spread out because he used a little bit of the floor, I guess you could say terrain. It's not really terrain, though, but it's still a great map. Definitely an excellent map, and WhiskeyWarm's history with Bungie Favorites is incredible. This is number 5, called WallRider by See You Later and Killer 200O. Got 259,836 downloads. This map featured some very unique things, and it was made by the two founders of racing, Killer 200O and See You Later. See You Later is the first founder. But it had a starting gate, one of the very first maps to ever have that. And it had an elevator, one of the I think the very first map to ever have either of those things. They created starting gates, they created elevators, they just really evolutionized everything and started everything going. You really should watch my History of Race video, find out how it all started, see some of the first ever maps. I thank you for watching this. If you are, please watch my top 20 most downloaded, my top 10 best double-wide sandbox racetrack forgers to see some of the most popular forgers, at least some of my favorites, and my personal forge history video. But this next one's called Accelerator by Blade Monkey 751. Got 269,542 downloads, and he got help by Dream on this one. And this map is just incredible. It's awesome. It's one of the first crazy good racetracks. For those of you who don't know, he came back onto Halo Reach under the gamertag Gotcha XD, and he made a map called Accelerator, just like this one. However, he also made Water Cyclone and Thunder Barrel, all three of which got, they got like 12, 19, 20,000 downloads, and they're all up on Halotracks. They all got nominated, all three of them, for Halotracks.org Best Halo Reach Racetracks. So as you can see, Blade Monkey was one of the very first racetrack forgers, and he's very influential to people. Number 3 is Saturn by The Last Laugh 27, and this one got 277,787 downloads, and it was edited by WhiskeyWarm. And I guess it's WhiskeyWarm, like the temperature. I always thought it was worm, like the little creature. This, I believe, was the first ever roller coaster. Quantum was the first roller coaster like we know roller coasters today. Roller coasters today on Forge World and Tempest are just like they were on Sandbox, and Quantum was the first Sandbox one, the first giant one. However, this was the first, I believe, ever roller coaster of any kind. At least one of the very first. I think the very first. So that's how it all began. But number 2 is Drift Rider by Dark Sniper 16. It got 298,416 downloads, nearly 300,000, and it's still only number 2. Whereas Jelly, which besides those shitty Mongoose Extreme 5.0 and super awesome race map, besides those which got maybe 100,000 downloads in Halo Reach, Jelly's the most downloaded with 70,000, excuse me. This one had almost 300,000. But as you can see, this map is just crazy good. It's smooth, especially for how early it is. If you had never ever seen a racetrack or ever heard about racetracks and you downloaded something like this, with a shield door drop and man cannon, launcher upper, and just this fast-paced, smooth map, you would have been mind-boggled at the time, before Forge was, really known by most people. So that is why this map is so influential and so incredible. By the way, none of these maps ever made it onto Bungie Favorites. I'd just like to mention that. From, I believe, numbers 11 all the way down, none of these have been on Bungie Favorites, because 12 at Triton's Twist was, but this is number 1, Stuntopolis V2 by Bulle Jr., And this map got 324,539 downloads, which is, you know, that's just incredible. That is unheard of in Halo Reach. That alone has almost twice as many downloads as the most downloaded Halo Reach map of all kind, let alone Halo Reach Racetracks. But the most downloaded map in Halo 3, by the way, was this map called Obstacle Course. It got over 1 million downloads. That's how much Halo 3 maps were downloaded. It got over 1 million. The most downloaded map in Halo Reach is that stupid, you know, X Games ramp, which has like 200,000 downloads or something. So, anyways, it's just crazy how much race has changed and gotten less popular. But thank you guys so much for watching. Those are the most downloaded racetracks ever. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was cool for you. Thanks for watching.